So Team Khabib will not leave Oliveira's name out of their mouth, and Alexander Volkanovski subsequently reveals that he will be the backup fighter for UFC 280 Oliveira versus Makhachev, and also Paul Craig versus Johnny Walker has been added to the Brazil pay-per-view card at UFC 283. It's a big fight, so I thought I'd break that down at the end of today's video. Let's start straight away with Islam Makhachev tweeting again. Is it Islam Makhachev or is it Ali Abdelaziz? The champion has a name and it won't stay out of Team Khabib's mouth is the problem I'm noticing in the build-up to this fight at UFC 280. Islam Makhachev, 2 weeks before the fight. Charles and his team not in Abu Dhabi yet. Should I start to worry? Says Charles Oliveira. And Charles Oliveira responds and says, don't worry, Daddy is coming. Okay? Daddy is an interesting way of saying it, but you know, it's just an interesting thing that's been a trend in the build up to UFC 280. Charles Oliveira won't sign the fight, he's scared. Oliveira agrees to the fight. Charles Oliveira will never fight us in Abu Dhabi, he's scared. Charles Oliveira accepts the fight in Abu Dhabi. Charles Oliveira, he's not even coming, he's not even here yet in Abu Dhabi, he's too scared to fight. Charles Oliveira is on his way to Abu Dhabi. I don't know what it is, but it seems to be a recurring theme. And if this is really the belief of Islam Makhachev and Team Khabib and all of that, that Charles Oliveira is scared of them, then it signifies one of two things. One, they genuinely somehow believe that Charles Oliveira, who's just taken out Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, and Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson back to back to back to back, is scared of the man who somehow defeated the Goliath that is Bobby Green in Islam Makhachev. Or it tells me that this is a little bit of insecurity from Team Khabib. Are they trying to will this into existence that Oliveira's not even going to show up? You know what I'm saying? They've been talking about this so much. He won't sign the fight. He signs to accept the fight. He verbally agrees. He won't fight us in Abu Dhabi. He signs and accepts a fight in Abu Dhabi. He's not even here yet. He's not going to show up. I'm on my way, says Charles Oliveira. Like, it's like a weird belief system that they have. And it's almost like an insecurity of theirs. You know what I mean? Like, they're almost hoping that Oliveira won't show up or there'll be some kind of problem and they're trying to will it into existence. It's just a very weird way of going about promoting a fight. Like, the guy's accepted to fight you. He's accepted to fight you in your home crowd, pretty much, in Abu Dhabi, because that's where Team Khabib's team is sort of situated and all of their fans can come out and stuff like that. It's like Muslim HQ, you know what I'm saying? And then all this stuff about he's not even going to show up on fight week. It's like a weird thing that they keep doing. And I think it's time to start doing this. And this is the only time the disrespect for no reason will end. Whenever we see a post like this from Islam Makhachev and Khabib, the fan base goes, God, I can't stand Ali Abdelaziz. What a horrible person Ali Abdelaziz is. Why is Ali saying this? We need to start treating this like it is Islam Makhachev, like it is Khabib Nurmagomedov, because in reality, if they say no to a post, Ali can't post it. Surely, that's how it works. They're not held hostage by Ali. And he's just like, the second you sign a management deal with Ali, he just snatches your phone out of your hand and signs into your Twitter account and changes the password and locks you out of it. That's not how it works. You know what I'm saying? So I'm feeling Charles Oliveira does defeat Islam Makhachev, and I'm looking forward to the build-up. I really am. You know what I'm saying? I just don't see how the narrative is that Oliveira is scared of Makhachev. You know what I'm saying? I really don't. I don't understand that at all. Like, the wins that Makhachev has, listen, Arman Tsarukyan win by close decision. I know that arguably Gamrot should have lost. That win's kind of blending in. You know what I mean? I know that you could say Gamrot's also amazing, but Gamrot weren't looking too good against Carlos Diego Ferreira until he landed that one knee to the side of the rib that hurt him and stuff like that, and Diego Ferreira called it off. But, like, I feel as though Islam Makhachev and the fear of Islam Makhachev and the idea of the force that he is as a fighter is very interesting, because we're judging him on dominant performances when his only two dominant performances, and I say this very carefully, his only dominant performances, really, in his entire career, where he's made it look easy, are when he's clipped Gleason Tebow, who was way over the hill and off of the sauce and stuff like that, and a shell of who he formerly was, let's be real. Other than that, it was Cajun Johnson that the UFC wanted to get rid of. I don't know if you guys remember that whole situation. They basically fed Cajun Johnson to Islam Makhachev as almost like a punishment against him. And other than that, his only real dominance has been against fighters who haven't prepared for him at all. No, haven't prepared wrestling at all in their training camp. And that was Bobby Green, who didn't prepare any wrestling whatsoever. He was fighting Nasrat Haqparast, who does not shoot takedowns at all. He is a boxer, if anything. He's a boxing fighter. And Nasrat Haqparast was the former opponent of Bobby Green and Dan Hooker. Both of those guys. And neither of those guys prepared grappling in the build-up. Neither of those guys had a great training camp either. And they all switched right back around like a couple of weeks afterwards to fight an intense grappler that is Islam Makhachev. When you look at fighters that actually have prepared to take on a strict grappler like Islam Makhachev, they do a lot better. Thiago Moises, and maybe you could say, listen, Thiago Moises and Drew Dober are better grapplers than Bobby Green and Dan Hooker. I wouldn't say that when it comes to Dober and Green. I wouldn't say that Dober's levels above Bobby Green in the grappling department. I wouldn't say that at all. But when you look at people that actually have prepared for the style of Islam Makhachev and maybe have a background in some kind of grappling art like Oliveira does, who's also preparing to defend against Islam Makhachev, is a different story than a first round domination. You know what I mean? Thiago Moises took him to the 4th round, took down Makhachev in that fight. Had a close round against him as well. Drew Dober got taken down, but Makhachev wasn't able to do anything to him on the ground until round 3. And Dober was able to survive until then. Davy Ramos, he went 3 rounds with Makhachev and dropped him with a jab to 1 knee, which might be on my second channel coming soon, the MMA Guru clips. We shall see. Arman Tsarukyan, of course, refused to stay on bottom. And that's about it when you look at the opponents. But Chris Wade was a good wrestler, and he was able to put Makhachev in all sorts of trouble with a guillotine. Ended up getting like a 29-28 decision scorecard against him. Was able to do well with the grappling against him as well. Nick Lentz survived until a decision. He's a guy with a good grappling background. I just feel as though this whole fear of Makhachev thing is based on some really skewered results, based on specific circumstances. Keep the champion's name out your mouth, okay? I won't stand for any Oliveira slander like he's scared. Dudes just took out Ferguson. Fair play, not the same Ferguson, but at the time, in terms of like calling him a coward, that is still the boogeyman, Tony Ferguson, in Oliveira's mind. Takes him out, takes out Michael Chandler, takes out Dustin Poirier, takes out Justin Gaethje. You can't call this man scared of anyone. You just can't do it. But, you know, Makhachev defeated the great Bobby Green, so you know, the terror. But even still, this tells us another thing. Alexander Volkanovski, in this whole situation, which is the next thing I want to get to, revealed that he is the backup fighter for UFC 280, which I think is just amazing from Alexander Volkanovski, and it makes me respect him even more, because we've got a card in February, which is taking place in Australia. I'm just loading up Volkanovski's Twitter right now. We've got a card in February in Australia, and that's interesting. You know what I mean? Because it means that, you know, Alexander Volkanovski is going to be getting right back into a training camp after preparing for this short notice bout. But after Makhachev tweeted out 2 weeks before the fight, Charles and his team not in Abu Dhabi yet, should I start to worry? Alexander Volkanovski said, don't worry, brother, I'll be there, winky face. And then Makhachev said, good to know, winky face. I'm not liking the use of these emojis sometimes with the winky faces that they're sending, and even Chimaev with that tongue out one that he always does is very intriguing. But, you know, all good. Volkanovski stepping up to be the short notice replacement at 155 pounds, which I just massively respect him for, and I think it's such a good thing to do. You know, if he's not going to get this opportunity and they're going to make him fight a featherweight contender in Australia in February, or if he has to wait for the winner of Oliveira Makhachev in February, this just secures him the chance to do it. And this is something that he's done before. If you remember a long time ago, in Alexander Volkanovski's career, the one reason he secured the title shot against Max Holloway and stopped any funny business with like big money fights or Holloway moving up to 155 again or anything like that was because he made weight on short notice for the Edgar versus Holloway fight at UFC 240. Volk gets what he wants. That's what you have to say about him. He's a professional man and he gets what he wants out of his career. He knows the deal. He's 34 years of age, just turned 34. This is probably the last good year or two of his athletic prime, and he's going to make the most of that. So he wants to show up. If he gets the chance, he gets the chance. If he doesn't get the chance to show up on a UFC 280's card, then he secures himself a chance in the future and puts himself in the UFC's good books and makes some show money as well while he's in his prime. Why not? If Oliveira and Makhachev both show up, Volk probably makes about 500k to show. And that's good money. And I'm sure his family's going to be okay with that if they take a little bit of time over Christmas. You know what I mean? If nothing happens, hey family, let's go on holiday. Done. You know what I mean? Alexander Volkanovski, consummate professional. And he's shown up on short notice. And I think that's just going to be a cool look. You know what I'm saying? On the embedded episode. And now we have the 145-pound featherweight champion of the UFC, Alexander the Great Volkanovski, weighing in as the short notice backup replacement fighter for our main event this weekend between Oliveira and Makhachev for the 155-pound undisputed world championship title. I think it's going to be a great look for Volk, coming out, tensing on the scales. It'll get him out there. This is a big event, and he's going to be on the face of it come the weigh-ins at least. Moving on to another situation, which is... what was I also going to talk about? Johnny Walker has a fight against Paul Craig on the Brazil card in January. People are saying stuff, yeah. Don't kick my boy Johnny out after the match. Johnny, please don't get beat up. Paul Craig sub-loading. I feel as though, yeah, Johnny Walker's getting this one done by TKO. I keep being shocked by the size of Johnny Walker compared to these other light heavyweights. That dude is probably 6'5". And maybe him making weight is the reason that he's got such a bad chin. Which is why I wouldn't mind seeing him at heavyweight at some point in his career. But I don't know why, but I'm sensing, like, listen, if Paul Craig tries to pull guard, you know what I'm saying? I reckon I can see a Johnny Walker TKO to ground and pound. I really can. He's that big and aggressive and strong in those positions and explosive. We saw an improvement in his jiu-jitsu awareness against Jon Cutelaba, who I would say has better offensive grappling than Paul Craig, because the main problem of Paul Craig's career so far has been his inability to get opponents to the ground. He has to pull guard. On the feet, after watching Paul Craig versus Volkanovski, it's very obvious to me that no matter how much time Paul Craig has ever had to learn how to strike, he will never learn how to strike. I don't think he poses problems on the feet to Johnny Walker, and I think Cutelaba really did. So you're telling me he's got to pull guard and avoid the ground and pound from Johnny Walker that could put him out cold. Also, it's a problem on the feet because Walker, for the first time in a long time, is not going to have to fear one-punch knockout power from his opponent. That's something he's always had to fear. Against Santos, against Jamal Hill, against Cutelaba, even as long as they were on the feet, he's had to sort of be very hesitant on the outside, like, God, please don't tag me once with a punch or I'm going down. You know what I mean? But against Paul Craig, I reckon we're going to see the best Johnny Walker we've seen in a while, and I think it's going to be a first-round TKO from Jonathan Walker. I think he gets this one done. TKO, first round. I just think the power punches at the top just beat him. But I think there's some sneaky good matchups for Johnny Walker, no? Like a Yuri matchup. I think is like that anything could happen. You know what I mean? That's the sort of division this is right now. With Yuri's style as a champion, he leaves it open for people to have a chance. It's not like a John Jones. Oh, he's such a badass, fucking oblique kicking at range and tapping at people with jabs and eye poking and moving. You know what I'm saying? Yuri's charging forward at them. So that's going to leave open some opportunity for a guy like Johnny Walker to get back into the title picture. So I will pick Johnny Walker to win that one by first round TKO. As much as I like Paul Craig, and I thought for a second he would have good matchups against some of the top guys, like even Glover Teixeira, if Teixeira tried to take him down. That'd be Paul Craig's world. I just don't know how he would fare on the feet against a guy like Glover Teixeira. That's the problem. But, yeah, I really like that matchup. I'm glad they made it. I'm just going to look at the rest of that card right now and see what we could sprinkle onto the event. We can't have Paulo Costa. Aldo's gone. So we've lost a lot of Brazilian star power for the card. But this is a main card fight. I don't know about you guys, but in my opinion, Shogun Rua versus Igor Poterya should be removed from the main card of that thing. I know it's Shogun Rua, but that is not a main card worthy fight whatsoever at this point in his career. Figueiredo Moreno is the co-main event. Tavares Gregory Rodriguez is okay for the main card. Paul Craig Johnny Walker is okay for the main card. We just need a main, which is probably going to be Nunes versus Pena 3. The way Pena's been talking about how can't wait for the third one. Sounds like she knows something's happening. But I would rather like a Nunes-Shevchenko main event. Nunes-Shevchenko, the trilogy in the main event. Sign me up. And then we've also got like a fourth fight that could possibly be on the card, which could be like a lower weight division Brazilian matchup, which I don't know exists. So there might be some problems with that. But, I just don't know if it exists. Where's the lower weight division Brazilian matchups? What can we do here? Edson Barboza, seeing as he got injured for his Ilia Topuria fight, maybe they could just shift that onto the Brazil card, main card, Ilia Topuria, Edson Barboza. Sounds like a good idea. Just figured it out like that. See you later. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. And toodle pip.